Hello and welcome to irishracing.com for our special festive edition of Formscan. A few days to Christmas now and excitement is building, I suppose, for all racing fans around Ireland and the UK. Delighted to be joined by Donn McClean for this week's special episode. Donn, thanks very much for coming on. I imagine the next week or so is going to be very busy for you.
Yeah, no, it's great, Emma. Thanks for having me. Yeah, no, it's actually, look, the racing the 4 days after Christmas, it's brilliant on both sides of the Irish Sea. So yeah, looking forward to it lots.
And what's Christmas like for you? Are you studying form under the table, or are you do you switch off for a day or two and get back into it?
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to switch off, isn't it? Like, even this week you're looking at and you're waiting for the decks, you've seen the entries and then waiting for the declarations. Sure, look, it's always been the same in our house, Emma. Even when I was a kid, you'd get the Irish Field and the Sporting Life, as it used to be, or the Racing Post, and get all the papers in before Christmas. So you'd be pouring over them over Christmas, and it's brilliant. But look, it's a great time family wise as well. But I suppose it all you're going Christmas Day enjoying that, but then also looking forward to Stephen's Day when it all starts. What about you? Are you the same? Going through it all?
Yeah, I suppose I think it's like great for racing fans, because even like when Christmas Day is over, I suppose a lot of people get a bit deflated, but like we kind of have the whole week to look forward to, like every day, every day of the week you're kind of nearly waiting for Christmas Day to be over to get the King George started and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it's kind of hard to not be keeping an eye on it the whole time. But like, I suppose we're kind of getting news all week about different runners going to different places, but we're just going to look at the first 2 days here. But I suppose over the full kind of week of Christmas period or whatever, is there any one race that's particularly really you're really looking forward to?
I suppose it is the Savills Chase, because Jerry Colum, as you kind of alluded to there, where was he going to go? It looked like he was going to Kempton, all right. Then there was a doubt about him going to Kempton. And maybe a gentleman's game out, maybe that became an option to stay here. So his inclusion in what was already an intriguing Savills Chase, to me, that's the race of the week. But look, there are other, there's a really interesting maiden hurdle on the first day. Looking forward to seeing Marine National making his debut over fences as well. So yeah, there's an awful lot and the King George, it's always an intriguing race. So yeah, looking forward to all of it.
It is indeed. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Savills as well. I'm hoping to get to Leopardstown on Thursday, so it's good to see those kind of top class horses in the flesh. But like, kind of talking about the Gold Cup picture, I suppose we'll kick off with King George, probably the flagship race of Stephen's Day, I suppose. It's an intriguing contest. A lot of horses coming in here with a few question marks about them. We've got last year's reigning champion, Brave Man's Game, looking to bounce back to form a bit, I suppose. Allaho is kind of one we are kind of looking forward to seeing in this race for a few years. He finally shows up in the King George. Quite a short price favourite at the moment, but I suppose to kick off, like, Allaho, were you impressed by his comeback in Clonmel, and would you be any bit worried about a bounce factor?
Yeah, I think at Clonmel he probably did what he needed to do without shooting the lights out. It was good to see him back. Good to see him, like, he beat Janadil by 9 lengths, and it was a decent performance without blowing you away, really. But you'd expect that he'll come on from that. I mean, and as well as his first run since Punchestown back in 2022, that time of year, the Willie Mullins horses, they're only getting going, aren't they? Like early November, mid-November. That's the time at which they're just rolling. They're just starting to roll, and then they hit full stride around about now, or maybe a wee bit before now. So I'd say there's a good chance that he'll improve an awful lot on that. And like you, I've been looking forward to seeing Allaho in the King George for a little while. It's a race that should suit him really well. A Ryanair Chase horse. He's an aggressive runner over an extended 2.5, and he proved that he stayed 3 miles at Punchestown when he won the Punchestown Gold Cup, back a year and a half ago. So yeah, I think he's a fascinating runner, but he's probably going to have to be better than he was at Clonmel. But the other thing was, it wasn't a leg injury, it wasn't a tendon, it was a spleen, wasn't it, that he had that kept him out?
Yeah, it was kind of an unusual one, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, so you'd think that that's probably a positive, as opposed to, tendon injuries. It's always a worry if they're going to come back to the form that they were in. But he's 9 rising 10, and it's not a great race for older horses. I think Hugh Card's the only horse aged older than 8 to win the King George in the last decade. So, look, he's the class horse of the race. You can see why he's favourite. But, I'd say he's probably going to have to improve in his Clonmel run, all right.
Yeah, and I suppose outside of him, like, we have Brave Man's Game, obviously last year's winner. Probably a few question marks about him now as well. Hewick obviously heading over for Shark Hand in the news that Gavin Sheehan's going to ride him. Look, I'm probably UX's biggest fan in the world, but I just can't get that Galway plate one out of my mind. Like maybe on his best form, he might have a chance of placing here, but oh God, I can't really fancy him too much after just coming back from that run in Galway. It's kind of doubts for me. Then obviously we've got Shishkin. Will he jump? Won't he jump? And the Real Whacker as well. Like, is there anything else that's kind of sticking out to you as a danger horse to Allaho, I suppose?
Yeah, like on Brave Man's Game, I'd be worried about him. Like, he's last year's winner, and it's a good place to start with last year's winner for this year's King George. And he ran a massive race in the Gold Cup. He got beaten at Punches Down, obviously finished third behind Fast Slow and Galloping the Champ. His Weatherby run on his first run this season, the Charlie Hall Chase, you can definitely accept that. Like, he was beaten by Gentleman's Game, and Gentleman's Game, he's a talented and probably underrated horse going into that race anyway, and he was giving him weight. I think he was giving him £6, and he made that mistake at the final fence. So if he was coming on from the Charlie Hall Chase to the King George, you give him a massive chance. I'd nearly give him a favourites chance, but he had that run then in the Betfair Chase, and it's not very Paul Nicholsy, is it, to then run 3 weeks later in a Betfair Chase with a horse who was on track for the King George. So look, he's had a 5 week, nearly 4.5 week break. Mm-hmm. So it's a long enough break, but I'd just be a bit worried that run, like, was very soft grounded haydock. He had a hard race on the back of his Charlie Hall not long after that. Yeah, if I was back in Brave Man's Game, which I'm not, I would have preferred to see him coming straight from the Charlie Hall to the King George. Yeah, Shishkin, you shrug your shoulders. You know, what's Shishkin going to do? Is he going to start? And then if he does start, where's his head? You know, even is he going to hit that flat patch in a race that he often hits, which may be more a mental issue than a physical issue for him?
Do you think he's forward enough for like the likes of a King George? Like, he can be a bit sluggish. Like, do you think he might be caught out by, like, Allaho will probably be going 100 miles an hour here? Shishkin could be well off the pace, like, couldn't he?
He could. And it's a race in which, no matter how fast they go, it's a race in which you generally don't want to be too far off it. You know, Kempton's it's a prominent racer's track. So yeah, like, I think there's so, like, he could put up his best performance, which if he put up his best performance, he'd probably, you know, he'd go close to winning, and he won the bowl over 3 miles on a furlong at Aintree. So for a horse who is a pacey horse, he does have stamina as well. So look, he's intriguing. I actually think the value of the race is the Real Whacker. I think he's
forgive him for the last run. I think he pulled up lame. Was that it?
He got struck into, didn't he, in the Paddy Power? And the Paddy Power would have been like 2.5 miles handicap with 12 stone on his back. It would have been on the sharp side for him. Like, he was a really progressive horse last season, and like, if Jerry Colomb had been in the race, he would have been a much bigger price than Jerry Colomb, even though he beat him in the Brown Advisory Chase. So I just think he's a horse who's generally underrated. He's never run at Kempton, but I think his forward-going style will suit it. Look, he may not lead because there's so many forward-going horses in the race, but I wouldn't mind him just sitting off the pace and just getting into his rhythm. Sam Tristan Davis is a very good rider who gets on very well with him. So I thought the Real Whacker should have been a wee bit shorter than he is.
And just the Real Whacker, tactics-wise, do you think he'll take on Allaho, or will he sit off him? It's kind of hard. You see horses trying to take on Allaho, but he just goes so quick. Sometimes they often fail to do it.
Yeah, I'd say, look, Sam Tristan Davis is good enough and experienced enough to know to be able to play it by ear. I'd say he'd probably jump off, and if he lands in front, then go from there. But if he lands behind Allaho, I'd say I'd be happy enough to take a lead, and without bursting the horse, just get him into his rhythm wherever he sits. And yeah, prominent, I'd say, but, you know, maybe not necessarily leading Allaho.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair summary of the whole race. Look, I love Allaho, but he is probably a bit short to be backing at the moment. Real Whacker does look like a bit of value considering that Brown Advisory form. So yeah, it's a good shout there. And look, we'll move on to the Christmas hurdle. I suppose just a small mention of it. There isn't a whole pile to talk about here. I'd imagine Constitution Hill is just going to win this. No real competition there. No,
you'd hope so. Look, Rubo's a nice horse and ran well. Won the Wincanton race, the Elite Hurdle well last time, and you know, he'd be a horse who's probably progressing to take his place among the top flight of hurdlers. But look, you know, reading Nicky Henderson saying that he's not stay away from him at Christmas Day because he's going to be on tenterhooks, which is understandable. But look, yeah, just looking forward to seeing him again. He's a 10-to-1 on shot, so yeah. Just again, one of those, an abundance of horses that you're looking forward to seeing running over the Christmas festival.
Yeah, I was reading those quotes. Like, he must be the only one nervous to see him out running, because there's surely nothing that can actually get anywhere near him. But yeah, look, Rugo maybe a little bit of a dark horse, but you'd imagine he probably just set it up for Constitution. He'll go off in front. He should win that easily enough. So we won't spend too much time talking about it. But the last Grade 1 from Kempton we'll have a quick chat about is the Kauto Star Novice Race, Grade 1 race. Very interesting contest. Willie Mullins has a few in here. I presume the fact that he's probably going to send Allaho and Paul Townend over, he's going to bring something else. Grange Clare West might be the logical choice, same connections, but Classical Dream probably would really suit the track, in my opinion. Big talking horse then from France, Il Francais, 7-4 favourite. Look, I don't know a whole pile about him. Don, do you know much about this French horse?
Not very much at all, no, until I was reading about it during the week. Like, he's a Grade 1 winner over hurdles, and he's won his 2 chases, and yeah, coming from the Noel George, Amanda Zetterholm yard, they're obviously they seem to be doing really well over there, so it's very interesting that they're coming over. But they've priced him up fairly defensively, haven't they? Like, he's a short price in a really good race. So, you know, like, it used to be the case that these French horses would come over and they'd be put in at any price, but now, you know, people have cottoned on to them. So yeah, it'll give us a very good indication as to where the French horses sit. Yeah, like Giovinco, Lucinda Russell's horse, I thought he was very free the last day in the Grade 2 race at Sandown when Stay Away Faye just out-battled him. I thought he probably did well enough to get as close to Stay Away Faye as he did, given how keen he was through the race, and Kempton will probably suit him at least as well as Sandown, maybe even a wee bit better. But it's only 2.5 weeks ago. It's a fairly quick turnaround. I thought Classical Dream was very good at Thurles. Like, I know he was entitled to win. He was a very short price favourite, but his jumping was really good, wasn't it? Like, it was
brilliant.
He was so fluent over his fences, and for a 160 odd rated hurdler, you know, a top class staying hurdler, I'd love to see him in this. And, you know, I agree with you, Grange Clare West. I just think Classical Dream might be better suited to the race, to the track. And yeah, if he takes his chance, then I'd be having a close look at him.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there, Classical Dream. Like, you'd imagine, like, the way he won his beginners around Thurles, you'd say, like, this test around Kempton would be right up his alley. And look, he's a 9-year-old, he'll be 10 after Christmas. If he's going to win a Grade 1 over fences, like, this might be his best chance. Grange Clare West, I was impressed by his chasing debut, beating Corbett's Cross and Heartwood, obviously. But last year he impressed in his maiden hurdle and didn't go on from it at all. So you'd have to have a few questions about him there. The only thing kind of put me off it, I would be a little bit hesitant to kind of nap up Classical Dream or anything, just because this French horse is kind of an unknown quantity. Like, I'm not going to back him, but I'm a little bit afraid to back against him as well, which may be a little bit silly since I know absolutely nothing about him. But the rumours are so strong, it's kind of you kind of have to believe it when everyone kind of seems to be talking about it. So look, it'll be an interesting one to watch anyway. We'll move on to Leopardstown. There's a good few interesting contests there as well. I think we'll start with the Grade 2 Juvenile hurdle. Some interesting ones in here. One that often produces a top juvenile. I think Lassie Mount won this on her way to win the Triumph Hurdle. There's a Grade 3 winner, Nürburgring, and his opposer the last time in Punchestown, Cala Conti. They face off again. Mighty Bandit is one that caught my eye, but there's a few interesting Willie Mullins French recruits in here as well. What's kind of standing out for you here, Don?
Yeah, look, I do like Mighty Bandit. Like, I actually backed him for the Triumph Hurdle after he won his maiden hurdle for a number of reasons. The time was good. He won it really well. Jack Kennedy, like, the way that he quickened away from Larkin in the Morning. I know Larkin in the Morning made a mistake at the final flight, but that only accentuated the winning distance, I'd say. And the form was working out really well. Harsh won at Cork next time. Pacini, his stable companion, he's come out and won at Ferryhouse there at the weekend. So there's an awful lot to like about what Mighty Bandit did, and including the reaction of Jack Kennedy afterwards, because you know, Jack just seemed to he kind of went, just listen to what he was saying. He seemed to think that maybe he wasn't a Triumph Hurdle horse before the race, but afterwards he thought he certainly was, and that's been reflected in his strength in the market in the Triumph Hurdle of late, allied to the fact that the race is working out really well. So yeah, looking forward to seeing him again. And Nürburgring again, I thought he did well the last day. Like, he's a 90 odd rated horse off the flat of Joseph O'Brien's. and he and Calaconti, they came miles clear. Like, she did well because she led. Now Jack Kennedy did get to set his own tempo, but she's inexperienced going into the race. Like, she'd only had the one run over hurdles, or sorry, 2 runs over hurdles, but the one run here over hurdles in that race at Navan, when, you know, she just, it was just like a schooling race more than anything else. She was a long odds on shot and she won well. So she did well, and they finished well clear of Eagle Fang. So, and again, the time was good. So I think Nürburgring might have been an underrated horse, and just a bit. It's a pity that he's taken on Mighty Bandit. And then, as you say, you have the Willie Mullins, the Philly Cargess, and Carafon in there over from France. They're high in relatively high in the betting for the Triumph Hurdle. Again, just impossible to know what to do with them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of you're kind of guessing and hoping with a lot of them, I suppose. But like, I kind of agree with you there. I was very impressed with Mighty Bandit and the race working out very well. But Nürburgring is no slouch either. He's probably a little bit quirky, I think. Calaconti will probably put it right back up to him again, though. So it's an interesting contest, but I probably would side with Mighty Bandit myself. I just thought he was so impressive winning that maiden hurdle, and he looked green, like you were saying. He probably should improve from it again. I think Gordon sounded quite confident about him afterwards. There's a few, I think Batman Girac ran against Nürburgring last time. He was a big talking horse, I think, before his race, but he pulled way too hard. It'll be interesting to see if he can improve on that one at all. He was kind of a talking horse, wasn't he?
Well, he was high in the Triumph Hurdle market. He sent off his favourite, but he was very keen. He ran really wide around the home turn as well, didn't he? Like Paul Townend had to almost took him out of the race in order to get him back on the track. So look, he's obviously shown something at home. So it'll be interesting to see if he can just maybe learn from that and achieve his potential, or run his race. But yeah, I thought Nürburgring did everything right. Now look, he had experience going into the race. He was more experienced than Calaconti going into the race, including his experience off the flat. But he was a good horse on the flat, and he beat Woodoo, didn't he, at a stole, and then the reverse in the stewards room, and she's gone on. She won that listed race at Newbury there on Coral Gold Cup weekend. So there's the form of those two races, the Mighty Bandit race and the Nürburgring form, that's all solid form, and I think that sets a good standard for the new recruits to have to get up to.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. It's normally a pointer towards some of the best juveniles around as well. So looking forward to that. Look, we'll probably drive on to probably the biggest Irish race of the day, the Grade 1 Racing Post Novice Chase. Facile Vega, of course, makes a comeback from his first chase start, in Navan back in November. Very exciting, but he was opposed by In the Pocket that day. A few people are of the opinion that In the Pocket could get a little bit closer. I think he was only beaten around 3 lengths that day. Would you see any chance of a reversal of that form?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think he'll get closer, all right. It's interesting that they supplemented him as well. So Connections obviously believe that he might get closer too. But look, it's great that they're taking each other on again. And look, it was a really good race between the two of them. Facile Vega always seemed to be holding the upper hand, and I think In the Pocket was ready for a race a couple of weeks earlier at Wexford as well. That was a meeting that was abandoned, so he ended up having to take on Facile Vega. And again, that race is working out well. Spillane Tower was good and winning the other day. I thought he quickened up nicely in a race that probably wasn't run to suit him. He was back and forth there, so it's a strong race. The Real Deal was in it, and he's in it again. But it's a deeper race than just the two of them. I think like Found the 50 is in there. He was only beaten by Ian Maximus in the Drinmore, conceding experience to him. And Ilete Tom, I thought he was good at Thurles. He settled a lot better, didn't he, than he had been over hurdles?
Yeah, he took the fences really well as well, because he didn't have much respect for his hurdles. But I thought he was quite a good jumper over the fences now. And Thurles isn't an easy place for a novice to go, I suppose.
No, it's not. But he's got good Leopardstown form over hurdles. He won the Tados Ireland Novices Hurdle at the Dublin Racing Festival back in February, sprang a bit of a surprise there. So, we don't know. Well, I don't know what Willie Mullins is going to do. But if he let Facile Vega and Ilete Tom take the chance, that would be good. I definitely, and Mr. Policeman is in there as well. He wasn't that impressed with me at Fairyhouse, but he's obviously a well thought of horse as well. I presume Gaelic Warrior will go to Limerick to the Faheen Chase instead, to go right-handed and go over 2.5 miles. But yeah, look, it's hopefully Willie will allow some of those, like a few of them, take their chance, because as it stands at the minute, it's a really intriguing race. I just on In the Pocket. What's your opinion on him in terms of distance? I think he's got the option anyway to step out and trip.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him step up and trip just because the 2 mile division is so strong. Like
Mm.
I I can see the argument for him getting a bit closer to Facile Vega, but I think they're fairly like set on hurdles for him. Facile Vega is probably the better horse, and I thought Facile Vega took very well to fencing as well. In Navan, there was a few people kind of cribbing his jumping a small bit, but I kind of find it hard to see him beating him, to be honest, which might force Henry to push in the pocket out if he's going to be a Grade 1 novice chaser. I suppose he probably has more of a chance at the 2.5 miles.
Yeah,
Like I'd imagine Willie will probably run. I'd imagine he'll run an LA Tom. Like he never kind of shied away from
yeah,
facing him off against Facile Vega last year. And Mr. Policeman, like you were saying, a big talking horse, wasn't overly visually impressive anyway, I suppose, in Fairy House. Be interesting to see if he runs and how he will run, because you'd imagine he must be working fairly well at home. Just like I think he was around 7-1 for the Arkle before running in Fairy House. So like he must be showing a lot more at home than he is on the track so far.
yeah. No, you think then maybe he'll improve significantly in his run again. That was late November. He should progress from that. And in the pocket, like he's bred for a wee bit further. I think they were between the Supreme Novices and the Ballymore at Cheltenham last season, weren't they? And then when it came up soft, they ran the Supreme Novices, maybe swayed by the ground. But there's plenty of stamina in his pedigree, and you'd imagine that if he doesn't beat Facile Vega here, they do have the option to go out and trip.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And some people are actually suggesting Facile Vega should step out and trip, but I think he's kind of the apple of Willie's eye, really, isn't he? I can't imagine him pushing him out from the Arkle distance if he has the option to stay there. But we'll move on to Limerick, I suppose, just before we wrap up for Stephen's Day racing. There's a Grade 2 novice hurdle down there, quite an interesting one. I think it's one that Gigginstown like to dominate in years gone by, and they have plenty in here again. Gordon has most of the entries in here. I'm with no prizes at the moment, I'd imagine, but I'd imagine if Croke Park goes there, he might be favourite, and he'd be my fancy anyway. Is anything really catching your eye here?
Yeah, like he and Search for Glory, they contested the race at Navan last day, didn't they? And the Monksfield Hurdle and Croke Park. Yeah, like he's just a real stayer, isn't he? He just got better as the race went on. You wouldn't have called as the most likely winner turning for home, but as the more the race went on, the stronger he got. He stayed on really strongly up the hill at Navan. That was 2.5 miles on heavy ground, and Search for Glory came out and won the Grade 3 race at Cork. Then he was obviously suited by stepping out and trip as well. He stayed on well to be the good yardstick and solitary man of Enda Bulgers. So that was a good performance by him, a good step forward. That's only just over 2 weeks ago. He's just had a 2-week break. So maybe Croke Park looks like that would make sense to run him instead of Search for Glory, wouldn't it? They're both Jigginstown, Gordon Elliott horses. But no, Croke Park, he's a horse who you can see progressing to be an Albert Bartlett type of horse, can't you? Like a real staying type with a little bit of pace as well.
Yeah, he looks like a real 3-miler. I'd say Gordon, I think he said he regretted running him in that Kilbeggan bumper even, but kind of since then he's been very impressive in fairness. Like I say, the further he goes, the better he'll be. But like this race has been a fairly good pointer towards the festival in the past. Like I think probably most notably Faugheen winning it under Emmett Mullins back in 2013. Willie actually has one runner in this, Loch Glen, who was 9th in the champion bumper. He was impressive winning in Punchestown. I think Willie said he's kind of a horse who doesn't do a whole pile, which, is probably one that'll suit this kind of 3-mile division. Is he one that impressed you at all?
Yeah, no, I was there that day. He was very good. Like he was a bit keen early on, but he did really well. And like again, Paul Townend afterwards seemed to be really happy with him that he would come on for that. So yeah, like he looks like a real 3-miler as well. That was 2 miles 5. But yeah, look, it's a race that it's been a really good point. Like Martella Tar won it before he won the Albert Bartlett. Penhill won it before he won the Albert Bartlett, and then went on and won the Stairs as well. And as you said, Jigginstown, I think they've won it for the last 4 years. So I suppose at this time of year, 2 miles 7 at Limerick on soft ground, it's all about stamina, isn't it, for novices?
It's pretty attritional, all right. Not really sure what the ground is going to be like in Limerick at this stage, I suppose. Like they're saying soft there. Like it's been quite windy around recently. I'm not like 100 miles from Limerick, and we haven't got an awful lot of rain, so maybe it mightn't be as bad as it often can get down there.
Can you remember not soft ground in Limerick at Christmas? I can't.
No, I can't. Yeah, it'll be soft, but it can get absolutely bottomless down there, can't it? It can be can be a real war of attrition at some stages. But I suppose just before we move on to the Wednesday racing, is there anything else kind of over the Stevens Day that kind of caught your eye? Like there's a lot. I think there's like 69 races on over the course of the day, so there's kind of too much to go through everything. But anything in particular that we haven't mentioned so far?
Yeah, that maiden hurdle at Leopardstown on the second race, like that can be a hell of a race. Ballyburn is entered in it, Tully Hill is entered in it. It could be a Willie Mullins race. I Will Be Bay is in it. King of Kingsfield is in it as well. He's a classy novice. He's obviously got form with a couple of horses who've gone, like he finished second in the Royal Bond. He's still a novice. Tully Hill finished second behind Shannon Royale last time. Redemption Day is entered in it as well. We haven't seen him. Mm-hmm. He was a really interesting bumper horse, wasn't he? So it would be interesting to make his debut, his seasonal debut back there. He finished second behind Facile Vega in the Champion Bumper at Punchestown back in 2022. So interesting to see him entered in the race. But you'd imagine between Ballyburn and Tully Hill, whichever of those line up, they'll be towards the head of the market. But it's a race that it's definitely worth keeping an eye on anyway. So Gerhard won the race. City Island won it. Bacardi's won it. Super Sunday won it. So it's a maiden hurdle that can have a really good pointer to the future as well.
Yeah, just looking through the previous years here, you wouldn't do too wrong to follow the winner of this going forward. And Mirrors Or West, another one in there, of course, very exciting one for Really as well. Kind of one I'm looking forward to seeing. But like you said, there's so many. James's Gate changing to Martin Brazel is an interesting one. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. But yeah, look, really exciting. And I think just to give a small mention to the Hunters Chase and Down Royal as well, probably one that'll be a little bit forgotten about, but kind of everyone's old favourite Sam Crow is looking likely to show up there, and he'll be facing off against some of the top hunter chasers in the division. Ferns Lock, a few more. David Christie has plenty in there. Ferns Lock, Sam Crow, Remilly is looking to probably, I think he's first start for David Christie. The boss is Oscar Vosley. A lot of old favourites in there as well. So I think that I'll be looking forward to seeing that one. Sam Crow making his seasonal return to the track. Anyway, at least he's been out in the points, but that's one to look forward to. And just one kind of caught my eye in a handicap, the 145, it's novice handicap hurdle in Leopardstown. Belgo Prince for Tony Martin. Look, he ran in this race as a 4-year-old. He was beaten at nose, I think. He was running quite well before making a bad mistake in Cheltenham last time off a mark of 108. He's off 97 here. He could take a bit of beating. I think he's about 7 on the ballot, so he has to get into the race first. But I can imagine him running a big race there. But look, we'll move on to Wednesday's racing. I know there's so much to get through. I suppose we'll start with Leopardstown here now. The plenty of graded action, but I think we'll kick off with the beginner's chase, the 12:35 Marine National, looking forward to making his seasonal reappearance. Don, me and you were both down in Barry's there a couple of weeks ago. It's hard not to be extremely confident in Marine National, making like the transition to fences seamless, giving like Barry's, as always, ultra confident in him.
Oh yeah, like he was confident all year last year, and look what happened. It was looking back on the season that Marine National had last season. It was some training performance, wasn't it? Like to go and win your maiden hurdle at Punchestown, then go straight to the Royal Bond, and then leave him off after the Royal Bond in early December and go and win the Supreme Novices Hurdle, and to not balk an iota. Like he was just tunnel vision the whole way straight to the Supreme, and everything that he said would happen happened. Like it was a really good training performance, and he's some racehorse now. And Michael O'Sullivan obviously gets a massive tune out of him. But yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see him over fences. Barry was saying, as you know, that he's probably going to be a better chaser than hurdler. He jumped so well. His schooling has gone so well, and this was I think he was entered a few weeks ago, wasn't he? But the ground got too soft.
I think, was he supposed to run against Facile Vega and Navan? I think they were both entered in the same race, were they? Or I could be wrong.
Was that it? Yeah. Anyway, so. Whatever happened, the ground got too soft, so he said he'd leave him off till Christmas, which makes sense. Just start him off here, and yeah, hopefully it all goes to plan. But he'll looking at the entries, he'll probably be faced with a couple of horses who do have experience, like good horses who have experience over fences. So it'll be a proper test for him, I'd say.
It will indeed. I was surprised to see Zanny here getting, I don't know, was he entered for beginner's chase before, but it'll definitely be his first chase start. Would be nice to see him. Like he's a really solid kind of grade 1 2-mile hurdler performer. So like he'll put it up to him if he's a good jumper. And I thought Home My Lord was a big eye catcher as well behind L.A.T. Tom. So it's not going to be a walk in the park, but like you said, Barry Connell really handles this horse brilliantly, and like the confidence he has in him, I'd imagine his jumping is going pretty well, considering that. So yeah, just looking forward to see him getting back out. And so hopefully we might see him face off with Facile Vega in the Irish Arkle around Dublin Racing Festival time, which would be a nice little treat before Cheltenham as well. But we'll move on to the first Grade 1 race of the card, the 110, the Paddy Rewards Club Chase. An interesting contest. Captain Guinness, short price favourite. His record at Leopardstown isn't brilliant though. Would you think this would be a good opportunity for him to get that Grade 1 victory, or would you be taking him on?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for him, no question. And he was in the Tingle Creek, wasn't he? So it was a clever move to bypass the Tingle Creek and come on here with John Bond in the Tingle Creek and El Fabiolo in the Hillyway Chase on the same weekend. So there was a good chance neither of them would show up here. That's what's come to pass. And suddenly it's a 5-4 shot. So clever maneuvering. And yeah, it's a big opportunity for him. Yeah, like I thought his run in the Fortria Chase was as good a run as he's put up. Like he's a horse. He's a proper Grade 2 horse, isn't he? And
yeah,
just below El Fabiolo and John Bond. That said, you can argue that he's the third best 2-mile chaser in training at the minute. So
yeah,
he's the correct favourite. Gentleman de May is entered. He's interesting. I kind of was a fan of his last season. Thought he'd run a big race in the Champion Chase. It didn't happen. He didn't run there.
he's just a bit hard to trust, isn't he?
He is a bit like on his debut last season. Like I had big expectations for him, and I know he unseated in the end, but he was a beaten horse. Jeremy's Flame had him beaten at an ace in the Popular Square race. But that said, he came good in the Dublin Chase at the Dublin Racing Festival. He was very good that day. He's a forward going front runner. You just wonder on his first run back how he'll be, and if he'll be maybe too keen, given that he's going to be fresh going into the race. He just might be a little bit too fresh, but he's interesting. And I think Appreciate it's interesting as well, going back left-handed and dropping back down to an extended 2 miles.
Is Appreciated going for this race confirmed? Yeah, it's like, I suppose like you were saying, Captain Guinness probably a real good Grade 2 horse, but like there probably isn't a real Grade 1 horse in this contest, so might be good enough to win this. I kind of fancy Dinah Blue though, to be honest. Look, she's kind of right at the weights. I suppose she's rated about £7, but she's getting that mare's allowance as well, so she just looks a little bit progressive. But the only kind of worry I'd have about her is she can tend to make a bit of a mistake. And over this 2 mile one, like she'd have to be pretty sharp to beat a horse like Captain Guinness. But I'd probably be willing to back her, just because I don't think Captain Guinness has the best record in Leopardstown. The 2 mile one might just stretch him out a small bit. Not sure will I be overly inclined to back in the race, but I probably would go Dinah Blue if I was going to take something in here. But an interesting contest. I think we'll probably move on to the future champions novice hurdle now, which is really exciting one. Look, we don't have declarations obviously at this stage, but it looks like Down Memory Lane and Daddy Longlegs are going to be the two kind of main market rivals here for Willie Mullins and Gordon Elliott. Would they be the top two in your head as well?
Yeah, look, you couldn't fault either of them really, Emma. Down Memory Lane he's 3 for 3. He's won his point to point. He's won his bumper. He's won his maiden hurdle. He was really impressed when his maiden hurdle at Down Royal. Daddy Longlegs likewise. Well, I think impressed lots of people. I think including you. I think I saw you wrote something that we're chatting about him.
Yeah, he was. I thought he was brilliant. But the only thing about him now is I heard Paul saying afterwards he was maybe a little bit surprised he showed that kind of speed, and maybe he might go out and trip, which might put a bit of a worry for 2 miles. But yeah, he was, I suppose, very visually impressive in Torres at least, anyway, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, exactly. And like Firefox was so good in beating Ballyburn. That was a hell of a race between the two of them. And what was interesting was at the end of the weekend, after Gordon had the 1-2 in the Royal Bond Hurdle, Gary asked him on Race TV, what was the horse to take out of the weekend? Firefox, no question. Not his for Firefox. So that was really interesting. He obviously holds him in really high regard.
Yeah.
And I thought for me was good the last day. Look, we're mentioning them all, I know, but it's that type of race. Like there's so many progressive, promising horses who have the promise of lots more. Like for me was a good bumper horse last season, finished 5th in the Cheltenham bumper and maybe underperformed then at Punchestown. But I remember winning at Navan and he was seriously impressive that day. He looked like he might be Willie Mullins' number 1 for Cheltenham then. But his hurdling debut at Punchestown, I thought he was good. He was a bit keen as he can be. He wore a hood for the first time that day. Caldwell Potter led him, then he took it off him, and Caldwell Potter kept at him, but he found more and he pulled away on the run in. It was a nice performance, and Caldwell Potter's enhanced that form when he won at Navan there the other day. So I thought that was a really good run. Again, it's going to be interesting to see if he takes his chance along with her instead of Daddy Longlegs for Willie Mullins. But I think it's for me as a horse who, if he just learns to settle and maybe, as he gains an experience over hurdles, he might learn to settle a wee bit better. And as he does learn to settle as the season progresses, I think he's a horse who could take a nice step forward now.
Yeah, he promised a lot as bumper horse last year. Maybe just kind of faded out in the end, but he's definitely a massively talented one as well. Like when a horse like him is 7-1 for this kind of race, it kind of just talks about the depth of it, I suppose. And like when you have Annie Powers fall by Galileo at 20-1, I think it just shows that like the quality of the Grade 2 novice hurdlers in Ireland at the moment is very, very strong. But yeah, like there's so many of them you could kind of fancy even at the bigger prices. Probably not one I'm going to have a bet in myself. It's probably kind of more one to watch and enjoy because like there's kind of, you don't know a whole pile about them, I suppose. Firefox maybe is the one we've seen the most. Gordon has never kind of hid his love for him, but I just thought Down Memory Lane looked so visually impressive, I suppose, in Down Royal. Like there probably isn't a whole pile of substance to the form, but he just cruised up so easily. It was kind of Carberry-esque from Derek in the day. It was just really kind of eye-catching. Yeah. So I'm just going to watch it and enjoy it. Would you have a bet in it yourself, or would you kind of...
At the minute, no. It depends how it shapes up. Brighter Days Ahead, she's in it as well, but she's also in the Grade 3 Mare's Hurdle. I think Gordon said he's going to try and keep her to Mare's races or fillies races insofar as she can. Farron Glory, the Royal Bond winner, he's in it too, but he's got an entry in the entry race, hasn't he? The old Tallworth Hurdle.
He's more likely to go there, I'd say. Is he? Kind of looks an easier option than this, in a way.
Yeah. But no, it'll be like if some of them run, it'll be a hell of a race.
It will indeed. Look, we'll move on to, I suppose, the feature on the card in a way, the Paddy Power Chase. It'll be a feature on most cards anyway. Big handicap chase, and Martin Brazel seems to hold the key to it. He's got the two top in the betting anyway at the moment. Desmond Morehouse and Panda Boy, two horses who seem to have the right profile anyway. They're both about 7 and 8-1 in the market. But look, you can make a case for plenty in here, I suppose. Is there anything really standing out to you?
Panda Boy was the one for me, Emma. I backed him in the race last year when he finished third. He's now £4 higher than he was then. He's had a similar preparation. He was pretty well beaten in the Florida Pearl Chase last season, his last run before the Paddy Power. This season he's had 2 runs. He took his chance in that Irish Daily Star race that Manila Indo won, and he was only an 11-4 shot for that, which shows you that he's not too far below that kind of Grade 3 horse. Yeah. He's pretty well beaten last time in the Grade 3 race that Dinah Blue won at Nace, but you'd imagine this has been his target for a little while, so you'd imagine Martin Brazel is training him to peak for here. Desmond Morehouse, yeah, he has to come into it. He is £10 higher than he was when he won the Kerry National, but he was very good that day. He only got in as a reserve, I think, that day, but he stayed
Gordon got him in there last minute.
But look, am I right? He's a horse from whom he's a talented horse, but a couple of wee things have gone wrong. Remember, he got knocked out of the saddle, or Rachel got knocked out of the saddle last year in the Grade 1 race, and he was disappointing at Cheltenham, so he's going to have to bounce back. I think Jody Ted, a progressive horse of Owen Griffin's, he was really good in winning a Pertemps hurdle qualifier, albeit off a hurdles mark that's way lower than his chase mark, but he's a progressive chaser. He was good at Limerick before that. He is £9 higher now, but he'd be interesting as well if he took his chance. And I thought Ida's Boy was good the last day, stayed on well to beat Mars Harper over a trip. Probably short of his best. It was a good training performance from Noel Meade to get him back after a year off, after he'd been pulled up in the Florida Pearl Chase the year before. And before that race, I was thinking he'll be interesting to watch because A, it's his first run back after a long break, and B, the trip is probably on the sharp side for him. But he won it and he stayed on well. So you'd imagine the step up and trip to 3 miles could suit him. So there's a short list of about 17 horses. What about you? What's your list?
Yeah, Ida's Boy is kind of one that caught me as well, but I kind of agree on Panda Boy. I think it's probably been a target for Martin Brazel. He's kind of a dangerous man when he targets a race. He normally isn't too far off it. When he beaten, I think, less than a length in it last year. Yeah, he's running graded races over 3 miles and 2 miles, probably just getting him ripe for this one. And yeah, I think he's market leader, but he's probably a deserved one. He'll probably be a tough one to beat in the day. But you'd have to kind of give a little bit of a shout, I suppose, to Real Steel, who beat him last year in this. He's around 25-1, I think. Look, he's not in the best form, I suppose, but you can probably take a little bit of encouragement from his Munster National 6th. He's coming back here, I think, only £2 higher than last year. So at around 25-1, he probably has a bit of a squeak. But like you mentioned, there's a short list of about 20 you can make in this. So I'd probably stick with Panda Boy if I was going to single it down to one runner. But look, we'll move on to Limerick anyway. Mayor's Novice Chase down there. few have met previously. Hermione Maker was one I was kind of looking forward to in Cork the last day. I was a little bit surprised with the way she jumped because I thought she was a lot better in Goran. You were there that day, I think, with Racing TV. What did you make of her?
Exactly the same. Yeah, like she was out to her left, quite at the fence, the first fence down the far side, quite dramatically so. She ceded the lead. Look, it was a brilliant performance by Silent Approach to win it. Fantastic for Conn O'Keefe, and she was very good. She's obviously a better chaser than hurdler, but yeah, Hermione Maker, she stuck to her task well, I think, after she gave away the lead and lost so much ground and momentum by that jump, and she continually lost ground going to her left. She did the same at Goran Park. She was a little bit to her left, but they went around the outside of Goran as they often do when the ground is soft. So I don't think it was a negative, and it could be similar now at Limerick at the week or next week. If they go around the outside, which they usually do, if it's soft, I think jumping to your left, even at a right-handed track, it's not a negative, and she does go a bit to her left. So looking forward to seeing her on a left-handed track. But even at Limerick, and as well as that at Limerick, it's kind of, there are two straights and two bends, aren't there? It's not like Cheltenham where you're turning all the time. It's you go straight up the back straight, turn, and then straight down the home straight. So I don't think it's going to be as big a negative for her if she does go to her left, which she possibly will again. But no, her jumping at Goran was very, very good, bar I think the second last, or maybe the third last, where she made a mistake. But again, she was a good hurdler last season. It looks like she's going to be a better chaser than hurdler. And yeah, I'd give her another chance. I think she's better than she was able to show the last day at Cork.
Yeah, she has met a lot of these and beaten them in the past. So you'd imagine she probably, look, even if she jumped like she did in Cork, she probably beat most of these anyway. C'est La Vie, maybe an interesting one. I think is she making chasing debut for Willie Mullins? Maybe she has had a run over fences already, but maybe an interesting one. I don't think they've faced off yet, but I'll be with you, Hermione Maker. I think she can, look, she still ran a very good race in Cork, I suppose, considering the way she jumped. But if she can get it a bit more together, I think she'd be very hard to beat. Move on to, I suppose, another big one. Like, there's so many big races. It's kind of you're kind of flying through them. But look, we go to Chepstow for the Welsh National. A tough one to go through. Like, there's so many. But one that I kind of caught my eye was the Fergal O'Brien winner, Autonomous Cloud. Looks fairly progressive, tailor-made for kind of a marathon trip, you'd think. Unexposed though, but yeah, I think he should run a big race. Kind of something to note, I suppose, for backers in the race. I think there's only 2 runners in the last 10 years or so who have carried over 11 stone. So it takes quite a good horse to carry over the 11 stone in this race. It's been won by some very classy individuals in the past. 3 mile 6 trip. It's a war of attrition, Don. Is it one you enjoy watching or backing in?
Yeah, no, it's a puzzle, isn't it? Like any of these big handicaps. So I thought Nasalam was good the last day. He's probably unexposed over staying trips, and in my mind he was a kind of a 2.5 mile horse, left-handed soft ground. But the last day it was soft ground and left-handed all right, but he stepped up to 3 miles and he saw it out well. The handicapper raised him by £8 for that, but he gets in off his old mark with a £4 penalty, so he's £4 well in. I just worry about the extreme trip. Even going to the line the last day, it didn't look like he was crying out for a whole lot more than it was 2 miles 7.5 furlongs. It was the Welsh National Trial, they call it. That's the race that I Will Do It won it before. He went on and won the Welsh National 2 years ago, and I think he's got a big chance again. I Will Do It. Course form is imperative. I think course form is, it's the first metric that I look for in a Welsh National. Chepstow at this time of year, especially on soft ground, it's a law unto itself, and if you've proven that you can handle it, it's a big asset to take into the race. And I Will Do It. He won the Welsh National really impressively 2 years ago, and then he was off the track for over a year after that. He came back and won the Classic Chase, so now he's £13 higher than he was when he won the Welsh National. But I think Sam Thomas is a very good trainer, especially a good target trainer. He had a nice run in a Pretemps qualifier at Aintree. It was a race in which the last couple of hurdles were taken out, and he led early and was only just headed by Gentlemen at Arms, where they bypassed the final flight. So that should bring him forward. And we know the trip ground is no worries, but as you mentioned, the weight's the only worry. He's got 12 stone, which is a big weight, and he is a 10-year-old, but he's only run 6 times over over fences. Actually, I think they were intending going for the Grand National last April, but he wasn't qualified because he hadn't run enough times over fences. So
wouldn't be too usual for a 10-year-old.
No, exactly, yeah. But you'd imagine that this has been his target again. Like he's a lot higher. He's 13 pounds higher. And when he won the race, he was actually out of the handicap because I think was it Native River was in the race and kept the weights down. So he had a really lightweight. So it's shoes on the other foot now. He's giving weight to everything. But I think he might be up to it given his course form. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fair shout, I suppose. He has all the weight, but he's shown he likes the test, which is kind of one of the biggest challenges in a race like this. But look, I think we've been talking for long enough, so we'll probably try and wrap it up. Don, would you give your nap your next best and maybe a long shot? Look, I know that's kind of a tough one given with no declarations and a lot of the races haven't been priced up yet, but anything maybe at a bigger price that you'd have fancy as well?
Yeah, I suppose for a nap, I'll go with Fast or Slow in the Savills. I think he should be shorter than he is. He's a 3-1 shot or an 11-4 shot. I think that's bigger. I think he should be. Can't see why he should be a much bigger price than Galopin Des Champs. And for either of the other two, maybe the Real Whacker in the King George. Yeah, I think he's got a big chance.
It's a good shout. So looking forward to that one on Stephen's Day. I'm going to give for my Nap Quo Park. Look, I'm hoping he shows up there. King and Sound of a massive record in the race. I think he loved the 3 miles. He might be a short enough price now. It's kind of a guessing game this early, I suppose. Next best then will be Mighty Bandit for Gordon Elliott as well. Just think he's very impressive. Price is not too sure about, I suppose. But long shot, I found long shot quite difficult. I'll probably maybe give Real Steel each way in the Paddy Power Chase. I think maybe a little bit of encouragement from his Munster National one. Obviously likes the track. Did it last year. Off only £2 lower. So yeah, I'll give him a bit of a chance each way anyway. But look, Don, thanks very much for coming on the show. Great insight into all the races from you. For all the listeners, have a very happy Christmas and tune back in on Wednesday. I'll be back with Ed Quigley to run through Thursday and Friday's racing. And if you're having a bet over the Christmas period, make sure to gamble responsibly.